See Downsizing, starring Matt Damon, Christopher Waltz, Hong Chow, and Kristen Wiig in theaters December 22nd. You are invited to call 818-985-2711 for a pair of available passes for a choice of screenings at the Landmark Theater on Pico Boulevard in Los Angeles if you're a film club member, or to join the KPFK Film Club and enjoy the fun.
Good afternoon. My name is Nima Ardalan. I'm glad to be bringing you another program from the SWANA Region Collective here at KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles. This week's show will cover a research study at CSUN that is helping students with disabilities in the SWANA region. That's South and West Asia and North Africa region. The study sheds light and is giving voice to an invisible population. The experiences of families of these students with disabilities from the SWANA region in the United States special education system. We'll be talking to Dr. Soraya Fallah about this. Why is this population invisible? What was the purpose of this study and the population? Let's go to our guest, Dr. Soraya Fallah. Soraya Fallah has a doctorate in educational leadership and policy studies from California State University, Northridge, and a master's degree in international relations and law. She's also a human rights activist, as well as working on behalf of Kurdish women, and we have had her on our show before, but in today's show we'll be talking about her research study, her doctorate research, or her thesis, and this research was based on giving voice to an invisible population. This is about the experience of families of students with disabilities from the SWANA region, North Africa and Southwest Asia, South and West Asia actually, in the United States in this special education system. Soraya, welcome to our show.
Hi, thank you so much, Nima, for having me again in the studio, and happy holiday to you and Milan and also all the staff in the studio. Thank you again for covering the issue about Middle East and North Africa.
Thank you very much for being with us. Tell us a little bit about your research study, why you call your population invisible. What was your purpose of to study this population? Why did you get interested in this subject?
Well, this research is a national research study that was done in a period of 3 years, and from 2014 to 2017. And I was really interested of working on children with special need and disability, specifically from Middle East, North Africa, and Southwest Asia. And I found a significant need to study this population. The study was done in, as I said, in a course of 3 years, and Dr. Wendy-Morawski, the executive director and Eisner Endowment Chair in CSUN, was the chair and advisor, and also some other scholars were involved, and the massive data analyzed by Zanyar Moradians. And the population of the study were a family of students with disability and special needs from the region that I talked about, and it's about more than 35 countries, region, territories, and religion and nationality in that region. So I thought I should be as inclusive as possible. My intent for the research was to determine if a specific demographic impact the experiences of this population that I study, and also to see which strategies we can use in United States school to serve this population better.
All right, thanks for that. And
actually, you asked a very interesting question, why I called it invisible.
Okay,
so
yeah, go back
I
to
haven't
that.
answered that one. It was three questions together that you asked me. So the population, why they are invisible, why I call them invisible population? Because first of all, it's extremely difficult to find accurate data for Middle Eastern, North Africa, and Southwest Asian population in the United States, since the current federal census racial ethnic classification categorizes individuals from Middle East, North Africa, and Southwest Asia into white. Basically, we all fall under category of white, and we cannot, in school system, we cannot identify those children who are from this group either by ancestry or they directly come from those areas. Also, there is very little understanding and knowledge research about this population for that specific reasons.
Now, how did you find your population for your study? What was your method of dissemination? Did you have to go door to door, for instance, to find them?
Absolutely. It's yes. Well, when I learned that navigation, my population is not easy, I created a survey and tested the validity of the survey and decided to create a flyer in a few languages as possible that is being used by this population, such as English, Kurdish, Persian, Arabic, Armenian, and we sent a flyer to many schools. We posted them. We even take it to demonstration, put it online, and I brought it a map and identified the communities and the cities that my population exists around the nation, such as like here in Los Angeles, in New York, in Maine, in Nashville, or all the cities that this population exists. And social media was one of the biggest places that I could find my population. I created Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, specifically in 3 languages for this study. Participated in different symposium and different places that I could talk about that, even in community gathering or in memorial and any places. We knock every door. We sent to 120 schools around the nation because I had to find out how can I send the information just randomly. And also I sent about 8,000 emails and letters in a randomly to the communities that are from this region and this area.
Now, what was your research questions and why they're important for schools, the school system in the U.S. and for the immigrants or whoever is in the U.S.?
Research question is always important because whatever we do, it's surrounding that questions. Why we study this specific population. I wanted to learn about the population and cross-cultural understanding of disability between this population. I wanted to know how they think about themselves, how they identify themselves, and how they categorize themselves as like white, Middle Eastern, Southwest Asian, North African, and whatever. I wanted to learn what they think about disability. Do they have any stigma in the community? Religion support the families that they have students and children with disability. And then secondly, I wanted to learn about the partnership between this community and schools and to see how the relationship between school and the families from Middle East, North Africa, and Southwest Asia, how this relationship can help children with disabilities. And then I wanted to learn about cultural competency of schools. I wanted to measure some various demographic factors of Middle Eastern, North African, and Southwest Asian families, such as racial categorization, age, level of English proficiency, or gender, job that they have, about how they think and how they pursue about cultural competency of school. And also, in the end, I wanted to learn from them what they think we should do or school system should do in order to better serve this population and their children in school.
Now, what did you find? I mean, how was your research relevant to the population? What was their response? What were your findings, basically?
Well, if you check like 340 pages of the research, half of it is about what we found because it was in a course of that 3 years. I really wanted to know what those people think and what is important about this population. But one very, very interesting and important thing that I found, and it was very surprising for me, was that, as I said, the U.S. Census currently doesn't have a specific category for this population, as a like Middle East, North Africa, or Southwest Asia. When I did the pilot study, the first year, 95 to 96% of my population checkmark a box that I wrote, what is your preference? They wanted to be identified as Middle Eastern or North African or Southwest Asian or one of those countries. They wanted to tell us that they are immigrant. But after administration change, this year that I did the actual research and I had this question, they indicated that they have fear of profiling. They have fear of being stereotyped, and they do not want to be chased, basically. And they want the privilege of the racial identity, which is white. That's what they said. And it was very surprising for me. Only 36 or 37% of my population, they checkmarked that I prefer to be Middle Eastern or North African. The rest said no. Even in the interview questions, they wrote for me, why you ask us this question? Are you working for the government? So
why are you collecting this data?
Yeah, collecting this data. Yeah. For another research question that I had, I found very interesting, like emerging themes such as like resilient and grit. I found out that they are really resilient in when they come and they have so many problems. If the kids suffer from PTSD, depression, anxiety, or something that they got from war, and they come from war-torn country, but they really want to get services, so they fight for it. I find out that not only they suffer from some problem in the community and some like fear of profiling or stereotype, they have there are some stigmas inside family. That there are stigmas in the school in relates to disability, and also some microaggressions such as PD or insulting words that they hear in a daily basis. And like stigma was one of those things that even in the when I studied the cross-cultural understanding of disability, mostly they had this stereotype. And also I find out that the higher level of income is, the better relationship with school is, and the less problem they get. And also if their English language is good and the proficiency is higher, the relationship is better. And by this factor, I find out that communication is one of the biggest things that that schools should know, and they basically should work on that with these families.
Now, did you get a chance to report your research? I mean, how was it shown or provided to the world or schools or educational entities? How was it put out there?
Doing the research is one thing, and giving it out to the world is like biggest
different
step.
world.
Different world. You should do it. One of them is this. Like today, I thank you that you invited me about this issue, especially at this time that the issue of Middle East and North Africa is very in trend. So it's hot. It's very important to know about this population and about those children that they come from war-torn countries, because they basically one generation lost education in that region. So we should really know about this population. Through conferences, the first time, right after I finished the research, I was invited in a conference in Anaheim called MECA, which was Multicultural Education Conference. And then I was invited in different radio stations such as KRN for Farsi and KPFK, and another one from Kurdistan. And also we started writing a chapter book. They offered us to write a chapter book, and today I got a letter that the chapter book is going to come out. The book is called Special Education and CLD, Culturally Linguistically Diverse Family, Challenges and Strategies for Establishing a Strong Partnership. And our part, me, Dr. Muravsky and Zarya Muradian, we did one chapter that it's from, the publisher is IGI, International Publisher of Information Science and Technology Research. So our chapter is basically and specifically about culturally linguistically diverse, emphasize on Middle East, North Africa and Southwest Asia. And we are in a process of writing a journal article and different journal article and going to different places and talk about it.
All right. Well, now we're getting to some of the nitty-gritty stuff now. What are your suggestions for the educational systems in the U.S. based on your research? I mean, aside from giving them a lot more money and support and
Sure.
and
Definitely.
what would you recommend? For U.S. educational system, what were your recommendations or suggestions?
Sure, because every research you do, in the end, people said, okay, what else? What you did this research? How can we use it? For the researcher, I have suggestions, and for the educator and educational system, I have another suggestion. As I mentioned, communication is one of the biggest things. So my suggestions and my advice for the educators are that do not use jargon when you communicating with this population. Just simple talk, simply use some simple words because some of them might not understand, or you want to be inclusive as possible. And basically, very low, I called it low register. So use some low register words, and also recognize a specific characteristic about these families and also about these children. Learn about them, recognize them. Don't just say this is part of white. No, it's not. These children they have different experiences from those countries that they come. They carry some issues, and also the dynamic of the family are different. It's not exactly, even if they were born here, the dynamic of the family is different. And also try to build a good and strong relationship between Middle East, North Africa, and Southwest Asian families with school. Try to be part of that building that rapport and relationship, and try to improve the experiences between school and the Middle East families. And as I said, use low register words and communication. And one of the things that family told me and I learned from them is use this group. If they have educator, if you find educators and they come to be hired, hire them. So have a co-teacher for the cultural co-teaching for these groups, from this group for the kids that they sitting in the class and they really need somebody from that region. So it's good always to have one of the teachers or administrator or para-educator in the system that they come from that region. And also try to be very inclusive and try to invite these families to school to build cultural competency and knowledge of these experiences. And also have some cultural competency, seek cultural competency as professional development in school and make it part of it. For my advice for the researchers or for new researchers is not to be persistent. Don't be scared. Don't be just easy breezy about some issues. Okay, I'm going to do this research and I'm done. No, find something that is invisible. You're going to make it visible. I remember in the beginning when I started, everybody told me, oh my God, are you crazy? You're working on this population that nobody can find anything. None of this school can give you any information because basically it's not in data. And how you should knock every door. I said, I'm going to do it. I knock every door. And my advisor told me that it's totally possible. You should do it. And that's why, and also, I had many support in my family. My daughter was very, very interested because we both came from war-torn countries and we have so many experiences in that regard. So I think you should never be discouraged and try to be very persistent and also try to look for what is missing in the literature. Try to find that.
Well, Dr. Soraya Fallah, thank you very much for being with us. I just have one more question, just a quick question, just from my own basic knowledge. You mentioned CTL, Center for Teaching and Learning.
Yeah.
Who funds it, and is this something that...
Yeah, Center for Teaching and Learning is founded by Michael D. Eisner College of Education in CSUN in California State University, Northridge.
Well, thanks very much for giving us the time, and
Sure.
It was an interesting... we'll have a follow-up with you
Thank
when
you
your
so
book
much.
comes out.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. And this was a interview with Soraya Fallah Fallah, a PhD doctorate in educational leadership and policy studies from California State University, Northridge. And thanks to our listeners for being with us today. And please tune in to our show next week.
Hi, I'm Maya Jupiter, your Monday host of the Global Village. Join me on Christmas Day starting at 11 a.m. for a funky and festive edition of music from around the world